Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Gartner special event at Computex 2025. And now, please welcome to the stage VP Analyst and Chief of Research at Gartner, Bill Ray.
Good morning. Welcome to the presentation from Gartner. My name is Bill Ray, and as it says, I'm Chief of Research. I'm from Scotland, and Taipei is really hot. So you have to excuse me. It's really hot. It's very nice, but it's hot. We're going to be talking about the top 12 emerging technologies and trends, disruptors, for 2025. I want to make it clear that these things we're going to talk about are not things that you can think, oh, maybe I'll invest in that, maybe I'll look into that, maybe I'll see what it is. These are things which are going to change your business. They're going to change every single business. Whether you like it or not, these are going to happen. So these aren't things that you can ignore. They are things you must be concerned about. Every business. We look ahead because we have to see what's possible. One of the things we'll talk about a bit is the limitations of the present. But let's get on. We've got 12 to get through. They've only given me half an hour, so we're going to rattle through them at a fair old pace. Hopefully, you'll follow. These are the 12. I'm going to cover each of them in turn, so again, I'll move on quite quickly. Let's start with the beginning. Polyfunctional robots. At Gartner, we're not big on humanoid robots. Humans are poorly designed. Our knees bend the wrong way. We have too many teeth. Our eyes are 3 feet away from the thing we're trying to pick up. Humanoids do not make sense for robots. The best use of a humanoid robot is to artificially inflate your share price. If I walk on here with a robot behind me, it's brilliant, looks fantastic. But practical? Is it practical? Nah. We can do better than that. We look at polyfunctional robots. A polyfunctional robot is a robot whose purpose, who's the thing they're used for, was decided by the person who's using it, not the person who built it. I have a robot lawnmower. It's great. But the person who designed and built that built a lawnmower for cutting grass. That's its purpose. It has no other purpose. And that was decided by the person who built it. Whereas my mobile phone, the person who designed my mobile phone has no idea what I'm going to use it for. Maybe I'll play games. Maybe I'll take photographs. Maybe I'll jam it under the door to keep it open. It's a polyfunctional device. The use of that device is decided by me, not the person who built it. And that's what I mean by a polyfunctional robot. A polyfunctional robot is one where the end user decides how to use it. And some of them will be humanoid. Humanoid robots are often polyfunctional, but not all of them. We'll see some new and interesting form factors. I'm sure you've all seen the robot dogs with wheels instead of feet. It's brilliant. You can lock the wheels, it can still climb stairs, and it can do 30 miles an hour. Wheels are great. Nature never managed wheels, but they are terrific. We're going to get very interested in robot-human relations. Robotology. One of the things we know is if you give a robot a name, people are much more forgiving when it makes mistakes. You call your robot Brian, and it makes a mistake, nobody cares. But if it hasn't got a name, it's a machine, and it should be perfect. So a little bit of anthropomorphization is very valuable. Also, robots are cheap, but the cost of deployment is high. The barrier to adoption is not the cost of the robot. It's the cost of deployment. How long between the robot arriving on site before it's up and producing useful value? How long does it take to task the robot? And that's where Gen AI comes in. Using Gen AI programming, we can give tasks to a robot much more easily. So it's the disruption and the cost of deployment that's limited. Crack that, and the market opportunity is massive, unlimited. So polyfunctional robots, not necessarily humanoid. We can do better than human. And we're going to need some automation because we're running out of power. This probably isn't news. But let's be clear. The power problem was happening before Gen AI. Gen AI has made it worse, much, much worse. But it was happening anyway. At Gartner, we're saying by 2026, that's what, 7 months? No, 6 months. In 6 months, 30% of data centers will be delayed through lack of power. Power is the critical function. Like I said, power exceeds supply. But it's not just generating the power, it's distribution and transmission. Local power generation, we've got Amazon investing in fission, we've got Microsoft investing in fusion power, and that's great, but how long does it take to build a nuclear reactor? That solution isn't going to come quickly. That solution could be a decade. Fusion's been a decade away all my life. So it isn't going to happen fast. So power generation. We've seen companies talking about building their own power grids, building their own pylons, building their own networks. And we need this power because we're doing lots of data analysis. There's lots of data coming in from all sorts of places, not least from space. Earth intelligence is going to be vital. This figure comes from the World Economic Forum. It's not from Gartner. But the World Economic Forum reckons Earth intelligence will be worth $3.8 trillion. Not million, $trillion. I don't get to say trillion very often, so I tend to say it a lot. $3.8 trillion. Now, our own estimates are a little more conservative, but it's massive. And when I say Earth intelligence, I'm not talking about maps and pictures. I'm talking about information. There's a marvelous company that sells, give you an example, the quantity of nickel smelted yesterday. See, what they do is they know the location of every nickel smelter in the world. And then they buy infrared data from satellites, which tells them how hot those nickel smelters are. And they know how hot a nickel smelter has to be to smelt nickel. But the product they sell to the customers is not a map or a picture. It's one number. The number of tons of nickel smelted yesterday. That's Earth intelligence. A huge amount of data is coming in. Massive amounts. Satellites are getting much cheaper. There's many more of them. We're looking at radio monitoring, heat monitoring, synthetic aperture radar, multispectral, hyperspectral. Huge amounts of data coming in, which is being analyzed. At Gartner, we believe that every single company, every single one of your companies should be using Earth intelligence. And if you're not, your competition is. There is value. There is something you could be doing with Earth intelligence. And if you're not, and you haven't got a plan for it, you should have. Because the value is there. It's not the only new source of information, though. Sensor fusion is becoming increasingly important. By 2028, synthetic sensors will be vital. Let me talk about synthetic sensors. There's a housing development in Scotland, and they wanted to put humidity sensors in all the buildings. So they put the humidity sensors in because they wanted to detect mold, damp in the buildings. And they put these humidity detectors in, and then they discovered that because the humidity sensors were there, they'd actually created an occupancy detector. Because it turns out if nobody's living in a property, the humidity changes. And that was very useful to them because they have a problem with abandoned properties, and that's great. But when they looked at the data again, they discovered they'd actually built a dog detector. Because it turns out that when you get a dog, the humidity of your home changes in a very distinctive pattern. So what they'd built was a dog detector. They didn't care. They didn't want a dog detector. But they had built one. And this is what's happening. We're seeing these sensors that have become so accurate and in combination can deliver so much value that by combining them, we can deliver a huge amount of value. Distributed intelligence, sensing the invisible. And it's creating new business models, new ways of looking at data. So the quantity of data coming in for analysis from satellites, from sensor fusion, it's absolutely massive and increasing very rapidly. And like I said, it's be very clear on this, the power problem was happening anyway. Gen AI is just making it worse. And AI is going to consume this power and it's going to do this thing. The existing architectures are not going to support it. Which brings us to our fifth trend. Algorithm-aligned silicon. By 2030, we're saying that 60% of data center AI will be dedicated chips. Chips designed specifically for a specific AI algorithm. Currently, AI is done using GPUs, graphical processing units. The clue's in the name. Great for graphics, not built for AI. Massively parallel, they can do AI, they do it very well. NVIDIA does a great job. But they are GPUs. They're not AI processing units. And they will be. 60% of them will be. Offers more processing. It reduces the power consumption, which, as we've established, is one of the huge problems. We have to reduce the power. And so this is part, it's not the solution, it's part of the solution. It reduces the cost of the AI infrastructure. One of the things that we're concerned about, if you've been in the IT business for a long time, and I have, you'll have seen new chips before. We see new chips come out. I remember in the 1980s when transputers were going to change the world. They never did. And the reason they never did was they never got the software support. So actually, if you're looking at chips, try not to get overwhelmed by the numbers and the processing and the tops and this. Look for software support. Have they got the software support? Because actually, you can have the best chip in the world, but if it hasn't got the software, it doesn't matter. So you have to try and step away from the specifications and focus on the software. Obviously, more data centers, more AI, and then we have to think about security, because the security situation is getting pretty bad. And we're seeing a significant shift from detect and respond to preemptive response. What do I mean by that? If you've been in the security business a while, you'll be familiar with the concept of a honey trap. A honey trap is a server. You create a server on your network, and you put interesting-looking files on it, interesting-looking services, and you put it on your network, and you know that if anybody touches that server, it's a hacker. Because none of your legitimate users have any reason to use that server. And that's a honeypit. They're popular, used for decades. Decades we've been using them. The problem is that setting up a honeypit takes time, it takes energy. You have to program it, you have to make it look convincing. Otherwise, nobody's going to bother attacking it. But now, you can use Gen AI to do that. Get ChatGPT to churn out 1,000 servers. Imagine a hacker breaks into your network and finds 1,000 servers, 990 of which, if they touch, you'll know it's attack. Preemptive security, not waiting to be attacked, preparing for the attack in advance. Automated moving target defense. AI analysis of the attack, threat simulation. We believe, we were very confident, that preemptive cybersecurity will be 50% of cybersecurity spending. Which means that if you are selling cybersecurity and you are not offering preemptive responses, you're going to lose half your business. If you're buying cybersecurity, and you should be, obviously, if you're not buying cybersecurity, then panic now. But assuming you are buying cybersecurity, your vendor should have a plan for preemptive cybersecurity if they're not offering it already. And if they're not, then look at your options. Because cybersecurity is going to be preemptive. And we have to have the cybersecurity, we have to defend our data, we have to defend our systems. But the data itself is changing as well. And it's turning synthetic. Synthetic data is the future of analysis. By 2030, it will surpass real data. What do I mean by synthetic data? Imagine that I want to build an e-commerce platform, and I want to sell to middle-aged telecoms executives, because I've identified them. What I want is a purchase history of 40,000 middle-aged telecoms executives. Now, if I'm Amazon, I can probably get that. But if I'm not, that's really hard. But I could generate it. I can ask ChatGPT, or again, I can ask a language model, to generate synthetic data. And there are companies doing this now. There are companies that will sell you this data. The other interesting one is car crashes. If you want to see car crashes for training AI, there isn't enough video of car crashes. But synthetically, you can generate it. And this isn't theoretical. We actually published last year, this year, Gartner published a market guide to companies selling synthetic data. So this isn't some sort of theoretical Star Trek thing. This is a business now. And if you're not including synthetic data or allowing for synthetic data in your analysis, you are missing out. Because there's a huge value to it. Often building on existing data, or hypersynthetic, entirely artificial. One of the problems is that when you buy this data, how do you trust it? How do you know that it's good data? How do you know it's representative? And that's still a challenge. So we see companies trying to build up a reputation, build brand trust in their marketplaces, so that they can build a reputation for delivering trusted data. And this data, of course, is Gen AI generated through language models, but not large language models. You see, the future of AI is not large language models, it's domain-specific models. In fact, we're saying that 90% of Gen AI-enabled solutions will use domain-specific language models because they work better. They're not so prone to hallucination. They could be controlled. ChatGPT, I'm sure you all used, has an action model now. You can say to ChatGPT, set an alarm for 10 minutes. And it might. But it might not. Because it's ChatGPT and you never quite know what it's going to do. That is not useful. If I want to set an alarm for 10 minutes, I want it to work every single time. If I go to Alexa and say set an alarm for 10 minutes, she always does it, and she's not very bright at all. She's quite stupid. What we need is something between the two. We've got Alexa over here that always works, but is really not very clever. ChatGPT over here, really clever, doesn't always work. Something between the two. A domain-specific language model. Now, the large language models will continue to exist, don't get me wrong. They serve a useful purpose in generating large quantities of content and so forth. But for applications, Gen AI solutions, the large language models will yield to the domain-specific models. Specialized models for special tasks. They're a better solution. They'll be embedded in applications. And they'll compete on the ecosystem. They can support efficiencies, pricing. We're already starting to see, we're not at market guide yet, but we're already starting to see marketplaces set up where you can buy and sell domain-specific language models. You can download domain-specific language models. You can browse like an app store and see what's there. And these domain-specific models, they will be embedded in intelligent applications, but they will also replace applications. Because Gen AI will enable dynamic, composable applications. Let me give you an example. I mentioned polyfunctional robots and the challenge with programming them. What we're seeing with polyfunctional robots is the idea of, I could say to a robot, go over there, pick up a box, put it in the back of the van. Then go over there, get another box, and put it in the back of the van. And go over there and get another box, put it in the back of the van. What I'd like to say to the robot is, the boxes must be in the back of the van. I'm going to give the robot the final condition. The robot then goes to a language model and says, how do I do that? Goes to ChatGPT, not ChatGPT, that'd be madness, but goes to a language model, a domain-specific language model, says, how do I do that? And it comes back with a list of instructions. Dup, 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 dup. And the robot follows them and loads the van. What's happened there is I've given an instruction to an AI, which has then pulled in other applications. It's pulled in a large language model to interpret what I wanted. It's pulled in a visual model to determine what boxes look like. It's pulled in an action model to guide the robot. So there's an orchestration layer, which has pulled in applications. I haven't run any applications. I haven't double-clicked on a single icon or on a single application. But I've used 3 different applications to complete a task. So by specifying the end condition that I wish to achieve, the AI can go off and use the appropriate applications. And this is what's happening with software. We're seeing it changing, being refactored to serve these composable solutions. Multimodal, I can talk to it, I can wave at it, I can type across IT systems. Low code, no code, we're almost beyond low code, no code. We can not even code. I'm not even telling it what to do. I'm telling it what I want to achieve. And it's working out how to do it. It's a completely new way of integrating. I haven't got a nice segue to number 10, so I'm just going to have to jump to it. Disinformation is emerging as a new information security discipline. And it's a really tough one to control. There used to be a shampoo called Wash and Go. I don't imagine anyone knows it, but this was back in the 1980s, way back, before the internet, before social networking. It's called Wash and Go. And they launched in Russia. It was hugely successful. It was so successful, there was actually a cocktail. You could go into a bar and order a Wash and Go. It was a combined shampoo and conditioner. Huge, very popular, hugely successful. And then a rumor started that it made your hair fall out. It wasn't true. I mean, it wasn't even a little bit true. There was no truth to it. And this is before the internet, no social networks. It was just a rumor. And the company tried to kill it. They got celebrities out to say, it's fine, and they couldn't kill it. And eventually, in desperation, they got the managing director of the company, and they put him on national television and said clearly and obviously, Wash and Go does not make your hair fall out. And everyone in Russia went, well, they wouldn't have said that unless it did make your hair fall out. And the product was destroyed completely. They couldn't control the narrative. And like I said, this is before social networks. This is before the internet. Well, just about, but really early days. Now, a determined attacker that starts a rumor about your managing director, starts posting things about your company, how are you going to combat that? Somebody told me that they wouldn't buy Ugg boots. The daughter wouldn't buy Ugg boots because to make Ugg boots, they skin the animals alive. Why would they do that? That's madness. But the rumor starts. Hard to control. By 2030, it's going to be as important as security breaches. It's going to be critical. In fact, so much so, not only do we publish research notes on this, we're Gartner, that's what we do, 3 of our analysts have actually written an entire book. Dave, Andrew, and Richard have written a book purely on this topic because it's such an important one. How you can control the narrative. I think we all know that disinformation is a threat. The question is, how can we deal with it? We see it used in politics. We see it used in civil life. We are going to see it used for ransomware. We're going to see it used to attack companies, just like your services or your systems are attacked now. But it all lies outside your network. Your firewall isn't going to protect you from this. One of the things I like to say to people, when you send out a press release to a journalist, how many of you digitally sign that press release? How many of your companies digitally sign that press release? How does the journalist know that press release really came from you? I mean, it's got a return email address. But if anyone's used SMTP, they know that's really easy to fake. I mean, like trivial. So how does the journalist know it came from you? Maybe the journalist will phone you and check. Do you know how much journalists get paid? I used to be a journalist. They haven't got time to make phone calls. They get the story out. 4 stories a day. I've done this presentation all over the world, and I've asked that question. I've never seen a single person put their hand up and say, yep, we digitally sign our press releases. Nobody does. But you've got to start thinking about that. How do they know that came from you? And what would happen if it didn't? Because the world's getting more complicated. But we are seeing tools to address its complexity. And one of the things we're seeing is the growth of simulation. By 2030, it will become one of the most important aspects of making decisions. We can now simulate just about anything. I spoke to a company that wanted to build a chemical plant in the middle of a town. And they wanted to build this chemical plant. And the local authority said, OK, we'd like to give you planning permission. But we'd like to know what would happen if the chemical plant exploded. Worst case scenario, chemical plant explodes, cloud of poison gas. What happens? So the company simulated it. They used topography, weather, wind, rain, but also how the people would react. Would all the people suddenly stream out of the town? What would the impact be? Would the roads get blocked? Where would they get blocked? They created a full simulation of the situation. And they were able to get their planning permission. So that kind of modeling, very complex modeling, using Gen AI to generate content and then simulating it is going to be huge. In 2025, this year, we are going to see the first drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, available that have been designed in simulation. Now, they were designed some years ago. They've been going through human trials for the last 3 years. We've got 2 or 3 drugs that are just finishing up human trials now. And in the next 6 months, will be available for taking. And these drugs were designed in simulation. Initially identifying the vector and then simulating the chemical compound that could attach to that vector. And then doing human trials of that. And that's going to be huge. Like I said, we've got 2 or 3 which are finishing. We've got hundreds in the pipeline. So over the next few years, we're going to see a huge numbers of drugs coming out designed in simulation. The ability to generate, analyze, design at scale. Advanced digital twin. But AI agent behavior, simulating not just how the wind and the rain and the weather and all of that, how the people will react. And frankly, will they buy your product? That kind of stuff. When you've got your 40,000 middle-aged telecoms executives, will they decide to buy that new wristwatch? You can now simulate it. Which does raise some interesting ethical questions, which is our final significant trend. Digital ethics is going to be the next frontier. We talk about ethical debt. A technical debt is where you take a product and you rush it out the door because you want to get onto market, first to market. You sell that product, and then you find that it doesn't actually work very well. So you have to fix it. If anyone owns a Tesla, you'll know what I mean. You've got to do software patches, but you don't get paid for those. I'm very into pinball. Pinball machines have the same problem. They rush them out, and then they're constantly updating them. That's a technical debt. Well, ethical debt is the same thing. You launch your AI, you rush it out the door, 6 months later, it turns out it's horribly racist. You've got to fix that, but nobody's going to pay you to fix that because they've already paid for the product. That is an ethical debt. And ethical debt is going to be increasingly important. It's going to be an AI differentiator. Oh, why have I lost my slides? The slides aren't changing. No worry. I'm going to try that once more, and then I'm going to give up. No, never mind. OK, ethical debt will be a key differentiator. it's going to be expensive. Compliance is going to build trust. One of the issues we have is that airlines don't advertise on safety. No airline says they're safe. And the reason they don't is because there's a bar that everyone agrees to. And all the airlines go down to that common denominator bar. Now, they used to do that with AI, but the Americans have taken away the bar. The new executive orders make no restrictions on AI. So we actually think this is going to be more important, this ethical debt. Control of your ethical debt is going to be more important, and people are going to differentiate on ethical debt. So I hope that's been useful. I've got a red light in front of me telling me I'm over time. I'm blaming the slides. I hope that's been useful. Those are our 12 trends. And like I said, these are not things you can ignore. Every one of these is going to impact every single business. So these are fundamental changes to everybody. And I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for joining us today. The robotics